Comcast. They're in a similar position to climate change. Everything is slowly getting worse, but it's still just fine now. But the writing is on the wall, and minor shifts just aren't going to make the cut. For them to do well, they need to make some major changes, which I'm going to get into later on. This is going to be a neutral view on Comcast. I'm going to cover their financials, business model, all their segments, and believe me, they have a lot. Also going to cover their strengths and weaknesses too. The revenue is pretty stable. They're in a lot of industries, and the industries are mostly stable. So there's going to be some major shakeup all at once. They ended 2023 off with $122 billion in revenue. Net income, a little less so. In 2017, that big jump is because of some tax changes under Trump. In 2022, the little valley that you see is because of the change in fair value of Sky News. Sky News is a news channel in the UK. Change in fair value, which is basically what is the fair value of that company, was marked down by $8 billion. What this means is basically, let's say they bought it for $20 billion, and now when they re-examine it, it's only worth 12. They have to mark it down by $8 billion and put that on the income statement. They bought Sky News in 2018. It was auction style versus 21st Century Fox, and they bought it for $38.8 billion. A lot of people at the time said that was way over what it was worth. They ended off 2023 with $15 billion in net income. And to explain the revenue shifts that I mentioned earlier, I need to explain what the actual pie looks like right now. It's split into 5 categories under 2 main umbrellas. Let's start off with content and experiences because this part is a lot more simple. Media category. This is basically linear TV and their streaming service. They own all these and also all these. Oh, and Comcast, if you're listening, can you please separate the streamer from the media category because I want to compare the streamer to other streamers and you can't really do that right now. By the way, they have 34 million subscribers as of Q1 2024. Studios wise, they own Universal Pictures, DreamWorks Animation Studios, and also Illumination Studios. Those are the ones which are most relevant today. They also own theme parks in Hollywood, Orlando, Osaka, and Beijing. Alright, let's get into the more complicated part. Residential connectivity and platforms. This is basically home internet, commission revenue from streamers for their Xumo boxes, data, and other services too. This part took some Rosetta Stone level deciphering, because why is the Xumo commission revenue from streamers included in the connectivity segment? I was so confused by that part, but then I thought, oh wait, maybe they're actually all just bundled together, because when they sell them, they're bundled together, and then, okay, cool. But no, cable is not included in this part, at least I think. This is cable revenue. Also, this is different from like the ads on NBC and all those other channels. The revenue from this part is charged to like local stations. I was confused for a hot minute here, but I deduced this because the cable numbers or subscribers are going down year after year, and that's pretty consistent with the revenue here. That leaves 2 possibilities why I was confused. Either A, I have to translate these complicated hieroglyphics into English for you guys, and that's confusing, or B, I'm an idiot. I do hope it's the first one. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. How beautiful. Like, by no means is it perfect, but please separate at least home internet from this. Like, what is home internet and Xumo box revenue doing in the same category? Call it, I don't know, data transfer or something. Also, just add better explanations. Business service connectivity revenue, which is basically just data and internet for businesses too, and it's going in the right direction. Great. Now I can finally explain the shifts right after. I'm joking. Here you go. Let's put the pie into phasing out, stable, and phasing in. By the way, ignore corporate and other. There is growth in the residential connectivity segment, and that's great, but the thing is, how much Wi-Fi do you really need? Like, you only need like what, 25, 50 megabytes per second? Also, they're now going to start being regulated as a utility, so there's not going to be much growth from that. Platforms is in decline year after year, and I mentioned it in my next video, but who really needs linear TV? Peacock is good, but it's not even in their top 5. But maybe the strategy is more licensing out content instead of keeping it all in their streamer. In their business segment, there's small growth, which is cool. Their media segment is fluctuating, but overall, trust is down, the numbers are overall down, and there are a lot of alternatives, especially now. The studio segment is stable, although they're probably going to have to change their business model on more licensing content, because theater revenue is very uncertain. And by the way, that little recovery you see over there, don't forget, in 2020 there was a little worldwide event. I don't know if you remember it. Parks are also in recovery from that mystery event. One thing I do want to ask you guys is, how do you guys think the metaverse is going to affect parks? Let's say you want to visit the world of your favorite story, for example. Mine is the one written by a guy named Eiichiro Oda, if you know, you know. Yes, I am one of those. But in the real world, you're limited by physics. Like, you can't have a giant statue just like flying across the sky. But in the metaverse, you can. But right now, the metaverse is way worse compared to actual parks. But what about 2 years from now? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Eventually, the metaverse is going to win. Because if the real world has to deal with the physics debuff. This is a question that I have for you guys. Do you think that the metaverse is just going to destroy the need for parks? Do you think it's going to help it by like maybe when you wear glasses, you see cool stuff in the sky? Or do you also think that it's just not going to affect it at all? Because my thing is, people also do want like physical stuff, for example, roller coasters. We can't really do that in VR. That's how it connects to my climate change analogy. The temperatures are slowly heating up and they're nowhere near anything catastrophic, but they need to start making the shifts now. And I don't even know if they can, to be honest. But they do have the resources and a lot of time to do that. Those changes are not going to be profitable or fun for probably anyone involved. Now let's move on to the stock data. After COVID, there were some pretty big jumps, and I did expect it to decrease, but I also just forgot. They're also involved in internet and also news and media, and everyone's staying inside at home all day long. So it's gonna go up a lot. Unfortunately, after the pandemic ended, they did start declining in value. It ends up with AT&T at negative 43%, Comcast at 14%, and the S&P 500 index at 151%. Although to be fair to the S&P, they were carried by a big chunk of the biggest companies at the top of that index. But this is not including dividends. Let's say you include dividends in this, and let's say you bought them on July 1st on 2016, and you sold them on June 24th of this year. If you had AT&T, you'd start off with $32.70 and end at a slight loss at $32.36. If you had Comcast and you bought it at $33.63, you would have $45.53. As for the S&P 500 index, SPY, by the way, that's the ticker I use for this one. If you started off with $217.12, you'd have $590.51. So this is one that clearly has outpaced the others. Strengths-wise, internet is a very needed and very strong business. There's also going to be large demand for data, both now and in the future. They're also pretty well diversified and financially have a lot of resources they can throw at something. Weaknesses-wise, they are pretty stable, but a lot of the industries that they are in decline or are soon going to be in decline. Ads-wise, they're just less targeted than YouTube or pretty much Facebook, Instagram, any others really. Like for a TV watcher, you don't really know much about them apart from maybe age, demographic, etc. Opportunities-wise, there's probably still room for growth in the like home internet area, data, and all that. The media might be able to regain the trust of consumers, although I wouldn't count on that, and regulation also could go down, potentially. But could also just go right back up. That's also a threat, too. More threats are the existence of YouTube, streaming services, Instagram, and like the news and all that. Like, all these big companies are competing for the same eyeballs. Their competitors are companies who are just as big as Comcast and have the equal resources to throw at a problem. So they're no joke. And again, ads on TV are just less targeted. So advertisers might say, it's not really worth advertising on TV anymore because I just know so much more about them when I'm either on YouTube, Google, or Instagram, Facebook. How do you guys think Comcast is going to do in the future? Anyway, that's a rundown of Comcast. If you want investment advice, maybe check that out. Maybe, I think. This is not investment advice. Like, sub. Peace, people.